Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Innal hamdalillahi nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh wa na'udzu billahi min syururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina may yahdihillahu fala mudhillalah wa may yudlil fala hadiyalah. Wa asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la syarikalah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Praise be to Allah, only to Him we praise, ask for help and ask forgiveness. We take refuge in Him from our self-weakness and evil deeds. Whoever is instructed by Allah, nothing can lead astray, and whoever stray from His path, no one can give him guidance. And I testify that no worship has the right to be worshipped but Allah alone, who has no partner with Him, and I bear witness with Muhammad is His servant and His messenger. First of all, let's pray and thanks into our God Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has been giving us some mercies and blessings so we can attend and gather in this place in good condition and happy situation. Secondly, my peace and salutation always be given to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who has guided us from the darkness to the brightness, from stupidity to the cleverness, from Jahiliyah to the Islamic era. Today I will tell you the story of the Prophet Yusuf thrown into a well to interpret the dreams of the king of Egypt. Al-Quran is a holy book that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and in it there are stories of previous people. The stories contained in the Quran include the story of the Prophet Yusuf alaihi salam, starting from a dream separated from his father to reunite with his family in Egypt, taken from the letter of Joseph. The story emphasizes more on the ups and downs of Prophet Yusuf life as a child. His sad story begins with being separated from his father, thrown into the well, until finally he experienced a period of joy in his life, met with relatives who had been separated for a long time and gathered in one country, namely Egypt. Prophet Yusuf is the youngest son of Prophet Jacob alaihi salam. The story of the Prophet Yusuf is called the most beautiful story of several reasons. First, the story is the most detailed of all the stories in the Quran. Second, fully discuss the change in human nature. Third, the depiction with vivid color, spiritual involvement, various aspects of life, makes so many lessons contained in it. Here is the story of Prophet Yusuf alaihi salam in full. The story of the Prophet Yusuf in the Quran. The story of Yusuf as told by Quran is a very long story because it consists of a series of events that are interconnected from a chronology, however. Like like the presentation of the story in general, the story of Yusuf alaihi salam also contains events that become the central plot of the story. What is meant by the central plot of the story? Here is the initial event that gave birth to a series of events that accompanied it. Without the occurrence of the central plot of the story, the following event would not be born. In the Quran, the story of the Prophet Yusuf as a whole is contained in the letter Yusuf. Quran Surah 12 revealed in Mecca consists of 111 verses and is located after the letter Hud 11 and before the letter Arad. According to Quraysh Shihab, the Shihab, the revelation of this letter was intended to strengthen the heart of a prophet who at the time was saddened by the death of his wife and uncle Siti Khadijah and Abu Talib. Meanwhile, according to Al-Biqai, the main purpose of the revelation of this story is it proof that the Holy Book Al-Quran is really an explanation regarding everything that lead to guidance. Tilka ayatul kitabil mubin. Based on the knowledge and power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a whole, both the real and the unseen. The story of the Prophet Yusuf consists of 10 parts, namely the dream of the Prophet Yusuf, the Prophet Yusuf being removed by his brother. The Prophet Yusuf being sold to the Egyptians. The seduction of people's wives to the Prophet Yusuf. A banquet in prison, the dream of the king, and the freedom of the Prophet Yusuf. Prophet Yusuf becoming a government official, meeting with family, and iktibar from the story of the Prophet Yusuf. Dream of Prophet Yusuf alaihi salam. Prophet Yusuf dreamed of seeing 11 stars, and the sun and moon prostrating to him. The dream of Prophet Yusuf alaihi salam is written in the fourth verse. Explicitly, this verse tells of a teenage Yusuf telling his father, Prophet Yaqub alaihi salam, that he had a strange dream. In his dream, he saw 11 stars and sun and moon prostrating to him. Yusuf's strange dream made his father believe that one day Yusuf would become an important and powerful person. There was also hope in the father's heart that Yusuf who would carry on the prophecy, inherit from their ancestors, Prophet Ishaq alaihi salam and Prophet Ibrahim alaihi salam. This man even gave birth to an accompanying event in the form of jealousy and feeling of being treated unfairly in terms of the affection that was embedded in the heart of Yusuf's brother. Verse 8. Prophet Yusuf removed by his brother Prophet Yusuf alaihi salam was removed from his brother who were written in verse 9 to 10. Yusuf alaihi salam's brother were looking for ways to make the love and affection of the father return to them. The effort taken was to plunge Yusuf alaihi salam into a deep well. Generally, a small child who is placed in a well naked and then abandoned by his brother must have fear, anxiety, worry, talk, crying and screaming. But Prophet Yusuf was not like that. He was amused by the meaning of the dream his father told him. Moreover, he received a revelation while at the well that he need not worry and surely Allah will save him. At this point, the story about Yusuf salam is temporarily stopped. In the following verse, the Quran only continues the story about his brothers after they managed to plunge himself into the bottom of the well, including an explanation of the alibi and the reason they presented to his father regarding the killing of Yusuf as a result of being attacked by a wolf. The story of Yusuf alaihi salam is reimagined but with a passive characterization style, namely when he is found by a caravan which then takes him to Egypt, sells him as a slave, and is finally adopted as an adopted son by the Egyptian authorities. Prophet Yusuf told the Egyptians travelers are feeling happy, and when he found the Prophet Yusuf, the pleasure is due to the prediction of the economic benefit they will get. People about Prophet Yusuf were happy. This is known from his attitude toward Prophet Yusuf because they made him a son, and Prophet Yusuf was given a good place and service. Prophet Yusuf as an intermediary for this happiness made this family treat Prophet Yusuf well. The family is questioned is the family of a minister who has a wife named Zuleika. The love and deceit of the wife of the Egyptian dignitary toward Yusuf salam is written in verse 23 to 29. In this verse, it is told how the wife of the Egyptian dignitary Zuleika tempted and seduced Yusuf salam to be willing to comply with her desires. When the incident became known to the Egyptian authorities, he asked Yusuf salam to keep it a secret from the public. However, as tightly as a secret was kept, it was finally known by the woman in the city, the palace. Thus, this third central plot gave birth to a compelling event in the form of the response of city women to the event that had occurred and the action of Al-Aziz's wife, Prime Minister, against them, as well as the incident of the imprisonment of Yusuf salam. Zuleika's seduction. There was a seduction of a wife, Zuleika, to the Prophet Yusuf, the wife of an Egyptian who knew the development of the Prophet Yusuf from day to day, seeing the beauty of his face, the clarity of his eyes, the valor and the subtlety of his character caused, caused her to fall in love with him. It is said the wife teased him to subdue him. This meant that the attempt to seduce him not once but several times in order to submit. Based on the attitudes shown by Zuleika and Prophet Yusuf, it is known that psychologically Zuleika was frustrated because her desire was repeatedly rejected until she forced Prophet Yusuf. Zuleika's dinner. Next, there is a banquet. Surah 12:30. The invitees, which consisted of women, spoke about the attitude of Al-Aziz's wife, who teased Yusuf. So when he heard the rumors, Al-Aziz's wife asked the woman to hold the knife and freed. They were flabbergasted when they saw Prophet Yusuf, who was so handsome that their fingers were cut off. Prophet Yusuf as important. Prophet Yusuf Prophet Yusuf was imprisoned with two young men. It was in the prison that Prophet Yusuf became an interpreter of the dream of the two young men. The first penance will is happy of for those who accept the dream, namely he will return to his master's house, to his original work, and the second takwil is a takwil that grips the soul of the dreamer, so that he say his dream was just a lie. The takwil is that he will be crucified and hanged. Then the bird will eat part of his head. Prophet Yusuf was interpreting the king's dream. Prophet Yusuf had the opportunity to interpret the dream of the king because his ta'wil was correct. He was released the dream of Al-Aziz, which is written in verse 43 and 44, as well as the freedom of Yusuf alayhi salam, which is written in verse 50 to 55. In this central plot, the Quran again raises a new character, namely the king of Egypt. After being told by a former prophet who had been with him in prison, so Yusuf alayhi salam interpreted the dream. This is the beginning of the introduction and interest of the king of Egypt toward Yusuf alayhi salam, and the story continues until the deception of the prime minister's wife Zulaika is exposed, and the truth is proven again of Yusuf alayhi salam. Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam becomes a government official. The story of the Prophet Yusuf became a government official. Quran Surat 12 44-45. He asked for the position of a state treasurer. This request was motivated by the Prophet Yusuf's self-confidence and his honest attitude. He asked for a position according to the specification he had, namely Hafizun Alim. Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam met his friend, his family. The story of the Prophet Yusuf being met with his family. The brothers of the Prophet Yusuf who came to him to take food rotation, which were distributed to the people of Egypt and its surrounding. Yusuf, longing for Benjamin and his father had been buried for a long time, got the opportunity to meet it. But the story of the Yusuf, the 10th episode, is an intibar from the story of the Prophet Yusuf, which explains and principles of everything that human need regarding of the benefit of life in this world and the hereafter. The story of the Prophet Yusuf provides a lesson on how a person must remain firm in the faith and principles of Islam despite facing various trials and trials of life and take turns, patterns and not giving up or putting your trust in will lead to success. Honestly will bring people a high degree of fear of Allah and always being under Allah's supervision has made a human avoid evil deed. Allah will always help His servant who always pray, both in times of narrow and in times of ease. Through this story, that a lesson of men always seek knowledge and do good and spread kindness to be forgiven to the envious. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.